Introduction to Memories of Childhood's Slavery Days by Annie Burton, published 1909. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Michele Fry. Memories of Childhood's Slavery Days by Annie Burton. Chapter 1. Recollections of a Happy Life. The memory of my happy, carefree childhood days on the plantation with my little white and black companions is often with me. Neither master nor mistress nor neighbors had time to bestow a thought upon us, for the great Civil War was raging. That great event in American history was a matter wholly outside the realm of our childish interests. Of course we heard our elders discuss the various events of the great struggle, but it meant nothing to us. On the plantation there were 10 white children and 14 colored children. Our days were spent roaming about from plantation to plantation, not knowing or caring what things were going on in the great world outside our little realm. Planting time and harvest time were happy days for us. How often at the harvest time the planters discovered corn stalks missing from the ends of the rows, and blame the crows! We were called the little fairy devils. To the sweet potatoes and peanuts and sugar cane we also helped ourselves. Those slaves that were not married served the food from the great house, and about 11:30 they would send the older children with food to the workers in the field. Of course I followed, and before we got to the fields we had eaten the food nearly all up. When the workers returned home they complained, and we were whipped. The slaves got their allowance every Monday night of molasses, meat, cornmeal, and the kind of flour called dredgings or shorts. Perhaps this allowance would be gone before the next Monday night, in which case the slaves would steal hogs and chickens. Then would come the whipping post. Master himself never whipped his slaves. This was left to the overseer. We children had no supper and only a little piece of bread or something of the kind in the morning. Our dishes consisted of 1 wooden bowl, and oyster shells were our spoons. This bowl served for about 15 children, and often the dogs and the ducks and the peafowl had a dip in it. Sometimes we had buttermilk and bread in our bowl, sometimes greens or bones. Our clothes were little homespun cotton slips with short sleeves. I never knew what shoes were until I got big enough to earn them myself. If a slave man or woman wished to marry, a party would be arranged some Saturday night among the slaves. The marriage ceremony consisted of a pair jumping over a stick. If no children were born within a year or so, the wife was sold. At New Year's, if there was any debt or mortgage on the plantation, the extra slaves were taken to Clayton and sold at the courthouse. In this way families were separated. When they were getting recruits for the war, we were allowed to go to Clayton to see the soldiers. I remember at the beginning of the war 2 colored men were hung in Clayton, one Caesar King for killing a bloodhound and biting off an overseer's ear, the other Dabney Madison for the murder of his master. Dabney Madison's master was really shot by a man named Houston, who was infatuated with Madison's mistress, and who had hired Madison to make the bullets for him. Houston escaped after the deed, and the blame fell on Dabney Madison, as he was the only slave of his master and mistress. The clothes of the 2 victims were hung on 2 pine trees, and no colored person would touch them. Since I have grown up, I have seen the skeleton of one of these men in the office of a doctor in Clayton. After the men were hung, the bones were put in an old deserted house. Somebody that cared for the bones used to put them in the sun in bright weather and back in the house when it rained. Finally the bones disappeared, although the boxes that had contained them still remained. At one time, when they were building barns on the plantation, one of the big boys got a little brandy and gave us children all a drink, enough to make us drunk. 4 doctors were sent for, but nobody could tell what was the matter with us, except they thought we had eaten something poisonous. They wanted to give us some castor oil, but we refused to take it, because we thought that the oil was made from the bones of the dead men we had seen. Finally, we were told about the big white boy giving us the brandy, and the mystery was cleared up. Young as I was then, I remember this conversation between master and mistress on master's return from the gate one day, when he had received the latest news. "William, what is the news from the seat of war?" "A great battle was fought at Bull Run, and the Confederates won," he replied. "Oh, good, good," said mistress. "And what did Jeff Davis say?" "Look out
Sample complete. Ready to continue?